Okay, it's 2.5 opinions.
I keep forgetting we don't have the intro music anymore.
Don't have any intro or outro music, so
No.
it's just fun. So the I don't know. I'm not even a kosher beatbox. So yeah. Anyway, gee.
So this is 2.5 opinions, and I'm not the Rebbe. And we are missing Ishai tonight. Jesse had something else he had to do, so we're missing him, and it's just us two. With my bags under the eyes. I've had no sleep all week, so this should be a fun time listening to Frank as Chris nods off.
Yeah. And out loud, I hate technology.
Uh-oh. Something acting up?
I just work when it's yeah, the fucking computer. Anyway. Anyway. I have a question that's kind of an offshoot, but in general, how has your life, and I don't mean just now, I'm talking over the last year, because this is our birth portion.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
This is always a fun one. Very interesting, to say the least. Because
yeah, really.
Like so many others, there's so many different directions we can go. This also happens to be one that most people kind of glance over because it's a long list of stuff to put together for clothes.
Right.
So everybody's always trying to find some special spiritual meaning. We extend it out and connect it to other things, and all that's fine and good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just when it comes down to it, there is got to be a purpose and a reason for this long list of stuff that we're bringing up here. And sometimes we dig really, really hard and glance over the basic meaning right there in front of us. I mean, I talked about it earlier today is, there's the Temple Institute in Jerusalem today, and for the past several years and going forward, they're taking this serious. So serious, because it's not just so much they anticipate and expect the Messiah, they're planning and working towards it. So the gold, the donations, they've got the menorah, they've got the clothing, they've got so many things already prepared, and they're still pushing forward more and more and harder and faster, because not are they just believing, they're putting their belief to action, their faith to works, and saying, no, the Messiah is coming any day now, and we still got stuff to make. We got to be ready for it.
Yep.
So it is fascinating that they're putting this to actuality instead of just a hope and a faith and a prayer and a song.
Yeah.
So what are we reading tonight? What are we going to discuss tonight?
I was thinking we could. You think the second Aliyah would cover what we already discussed, or?
Sure. I mean, I think we can go just about anywhere tonight. You want to do the second, or you want? Yeah, well, whichever. We'll do the second.
Why not? Okay. Give me a second to.
All right. So you
get to the.
Well, you're pulling up the blessing.
Yeah. To the.
So you're pulling up the blessing. We're reading out of Tetzaveh, which is. We're going to start off at Exodus chapter 28.
A blessing.
I think we're talking over each other. So we're going to start off with the second Aliyah, which is Exodus chapter 28, verse 13, and we'll read all the way through to verse 30.
Because my computer. Yeah, I'm trying to find the blessing. Being a pain. It's just going slow. I don't know. Can you hear me?
At times I can hear you. So
Oh, come
tell you
on.
tell you what, Frank. While you're dealing with your computer, I'm just going to do a real quick Parsha recap.
What was that?
This is what's going on in our Parsha this week. It continues with the instructions of the Mishkan. First, the people should bring pure olive oil for the Ner Tamid, the perpetual lamp, the menorah. Moses should make special clothing for the priests. Then the text goes on and it describes a detailed 7-day ceremony to inaugurate the priests into their service. There's a command of the
Okay.
Olat Tamid, the daily offering. That daily offering is interesting because maybe we can get there tonight. But we go into the Tamid, the daily offering, which is a lamb in the morning and lamb in the evening. And then finally Moses gets instructions to build the golden altar of incense. And its placement is odd. Strange way they describe the location of this. If that's what it is they're trying to describe as the location, or is it something else? So with that, Frank, what do you think? Are we ready? I can't hear him. I don't know if he's on or not anymore. Oh my goodness. Frank, are you there? All right. Well, I tell you what, Frank, I think we've got a couple of people, 2.5 people
I'm here.
Oh,
Can
are
you
you
see
here?
me? Can you hear me? I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yep. Okay. Go ahead and do the blessing and let's start off. We'll struggle through it.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I'm nodding my head up and down.
Okay. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar banu mikol ha'amim v'tan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein ha'torah. El melech ne'eman.
Amen. Amen. Tetzaveh, second Aliyah, chapter 28, verse 13. You should make settings of gold, and 2 chains of pure gold. You will make them attached to the edges after the manner of the cables. You will place the cable chains upon the settings. You should make a koshen of judgment, a koshen ha-mashpiat, the koshen of judgment, the work of a master weaver. You shall make it like the work of an ephod of gold, blue, purple, crimson wool, and twisted fine linen. You shall make it. It shall be square and doubled. Its length is 1 span, its width 1 span. And you shall fill into it stone fillings, 4 rows of stones, 1 row odom, pitdah, and bereket. Thus shall the 1 row be. The 2nd row nophech, sapphire, and yahalom. The 3rd row leshem, shevo, and achlama. And the 4th row tarshish, shoham, and yeshpeh. They shall be set in gold in their fillings. And the stones shall be for the names of the sons of Israel 12, corresponding to their names. Similar to the engravings of the seal, every one according to his name shall they be, for the 12 tribes. You should make for the koshen chains at the edges of the cable work of pure gold. You should make for the koshen 2 golden rings, and you shall place the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the koshen. And you shall place the 2 golden cables on the 2 rings at the ends of the koshen, and the 2 ends of the cables you shall place upon 2 settings, and these you shall place upon the shoulder straps of the ephod and on the front part. And you shall make 2 golden rings, and you shall place them on the 2 ends of the koshen, on its edges, that is toward the inner side of the ephod. And you shall make 2 golden rings and place them on the shoulder straps of the ephod from below toward the front, adjacent to its seam, above the band of the ephod. And they shall fasten the koshen by its rings to the rings of the ephod with a blue cord, so that it will be upon the band of the ephod, and the koshen will not move off of the ephod. Thus shall Aaron carry the names of the sons of Israel in the Choshen of judgment over his heart when he enters the holy, as a remembrance before the Lord at all times. You should place the Urim and the Tumim into the Choshen of judgment, so that they will be over Aaron's heart when he comes before the Lord. And Aaron will carry the judgment of the children of Israel over his heart before the Lord at all times.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah imet b'kayeu atah b'tukenu. Baruch atah Adonai melech Naaman. So you for a second, I thought maybe you were on dial-up or something. Muted. What are you muted for?
I think you're still lagging over there because your picture and voice are a little bit different. I don't even know if we're being able to pick up your picture on the YouTube channel. So I'm sure everybody's just seeing my ugly mug as I finish off my glass of wine for the evening.
Well, it's not automatically switching back and forth. I don't know why. It may be a hiccup. I'm sorry.
Oh well, it's
not my fault. It's technology. Blame Bill Gates.
Oh, that's good. All right, so where would you like to start with this, Frank? Earlier today, on Torah with Friends, we kind of bounced around a little bit, and got off topic a few times, like everybody always does when we're talking about the Torah portion. But this one, it's odd. It's interesting. I think all the sages agree, and they state it pretty loud and clear, that the Mishkan, the Ohel, the tent of meeting, the tabernacle, is a mobile Sinai.
It's a Beis HaMikdash.
Yeah, but it's modeled after in so many ways Sinai. The degrees of separation, who can come near the mountain. We've got all the people camped around the mountain. We've got all the people camped around the tent. We've got it guarded off so not everybody can come into so far, but they can come in this far, but no more. Only the priests could go up on the mountain with Aaron and Moshe, but they could only go up so far, and then only Moshe and Aaron could go up to the top of the mountain. And we see the same thing here with the holy place and then the most holy place. The whole purpose of Moshe going up on the mountain to begin with was what? So that he could speak with God. God said, "I'll meet you there, and I'll speak with you, and I'll give you the commandments, and you'll transfer the commandments to the people." The same thing is about the tent of meeting. Basically, we just see a mobile Mount Sinai.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
now we got all these clothes. What's with the clothes?
I have pondered that, and I saw part of the earlier, Torah with Friends about the layers, and I forget the lady's name, but she ascribed that most Christians attribute the Roman armor with what Paul was saying. Okay, when in fact, I believe she's correct when you could actually take a look at the Kohen Hagadol's garments and say it's actually these garments that he's talking about.
Right. I think you both are on to something there, that we're really talking about this. So then what's so mystical, magical, or fascinating about these garments? I mean, they certainly do look beautiful. The jewels, the gold, the crown, the hat, everything that's going on here. We've got really two different sets of clothing. We've got the clothing that's only the high priest wears, and then we've got the clothing that all the priests wear, and then we've got the linen breeches that everybody wears.
Yep.
It's almost like saying that the high priest is still a man.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That throws a
Yeah.
kink into things.
Yeah. So it's a magical waiting day. No, sorry.
I think
Every time you say that, I kind of I'm starting to what?
I think you're starting to break up a little bit again, but yeah, and that might be one of the things about the linen breeches that we could look into is that they all wear the same inner garment, the same garment that touches the skin that covers the nakedness, whether it's modesty, whatever it may be. But we're really seeing that. Guess what, high priest? You're still a man. It's almost like the guy on the chariot with Caesar saying, what was it? Uh,
Thou art mortal. Remember, thou art mortal.
yeah, yeah. Remember, you're still mortal. Just because
Yeah.
they worship you as something special, you're still mortal. It might be that simple, but there could be other things. So
Yeah.
as we go through the workings of this, I mean, it almost reads like a VCR recorder instructions. I mean, it's almost confusing because you're trying to picture this in your mind, but it goes all around the place, and it's hard to even draw a picture of how this is to work out. I mean, could you imagine drawing out the diagram of this goes here and this goes here and this goes here? I mean, it's a tough read to try to envision in your mind until somebody throws it up and says, well, here's really what it looked like. Oh, that's cool. Wow, that's fascinating.
Well, yeah, but people think that these are all separate pieces of garment, okay? And there's like 6, 7 pieces. When in actuality, because once the apron is made, once the cushion is made, once the shoulder, oh, what's the name of the stone again? The stone on the shoulder, the Shosham stones. Okay, once all that's done, they're all tied together, and they shall not come apart. That's why the cord of this, and that's why the sash of this, and that's why this, and that's why this. And there was a great article on Kabod.org about why the names of the tribes are in 2 places, why they're on the breastplate and why they're on the shoulders. The breastplate, yeah, I'm the individual Jew that's right there. See, I'm that tribe. The shoulders, well, that's all of the tribes together in 2 groups. So you're not only an individual before God, but you're also a member of Israel before God. Did I come through? I don't hear you.
Oh, I'm just talking into the mic.
Now I hear you. Now I hear you.
It is almost kind of like in next week in the following Torah portions where we've got the shekel tax and the half shekel, and you really have to be teamed with somebody. And even whenever you go as a male to pay your tax, you have to say you are who, son of, clan of, tribe of, and it's like you're counted as an individual, but the only way you're counted as an individual is you're a member of a whole.
Exactly.
So
And
there's an interesting way of looking at that. It
and that
kind of
that could tie in to what you were saying with the garments. Everybody had to wear the pants, okay? Only certain people got to wear the linen garments, and only this most high, or the Kohen Hagadol, the most high priest, could wear all of the other fine arraignment, and that was his station. So maybe there's a correlation there.
yeah, but even with that, the you were not the high priest for life. Really, you were only a high priest
True.
for a year period of time, and then it went to someone else. Now you could come back and be the high priest again. So the high priest was not a person; it was a station. It was a position. It was a function that had to be accomplished and done. And that's an interesting way of looking at it. That even when in the words that are chosen here, you shall choose Aaron to minister before me in the position of high priest. He doesn't say Aaron is going to be the high priest. Aaron is going to minister in the position of, and that's an interesting take.
Now, in the wilderness, Aaron did officiate for almost 40 years. Okay. Eleazar got the garments, and Eleazar did administer or did minister before the Lord for I forget how many more years, and then they were passed on and passed on. I think the yearly thing was when the actual temple was built. Is that when that is?
You're kind of breaking in and off. So, year the temple was built. What was your question again?
The administering as the Kohen Hagadol, I think the yearly or year by year was in place after the temple was built.
Very possible. I don't know that time frame when it was a Mishkan until Solomon inaugurates it. But as we go through Tanakh, there's multiple high priests, and sometimes we're told of the time frame of something based on who is officiating as high priest that year.
Right. So, but as I said, did it come through about Aaron for almost 40 years?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when they get into the land, when they get and they put up the Mishkan, it's possible that from approximately that point, or from Eli, okay, the one who had the two wicked sons, and oh, my brain is Swiss cheese. Samuel became the prophet. It's possible that it was then that the year by year started. I don't know, but
Yeah, what's interesting about this breastplate, though, the name of it, we always call it a breastplate, the Choshen, but here in what we read tonight, it keeps on calling it over and over. It's the Choshen Mishpat. Well, the most Jewish Bibles translate that directly and say it's the breastplate of judgment. And it's as though Aaron is carrying forth the judgment. And we see hinted at for the breastplate itself that it brings atonement for something. And I know the sages discuss this in great detail, and they go back and forth. And what's fascinating is during this discussion, it comes out that nowhere in the Torah does it tell us what the punishment is, or the atonement or sin offering or anything else for an unrighteous judge, someone that makes a bad judgment in the place of being a judge. So Frank and Chris come together before the judge, and Frank's accusing Chris of this, and Chris is trying to argue back, and the judge, for whatever reason, makes the wrong judgment.
right. I don't.
Well, no, hold on, because think about this.
Okay.
What is the title of a judge? Anyone remember? Elohim.
Justice of the law.
Elohim.
Well, yeah. Sorry,
In Hebrew, a judge is an Elohim. Well, now wait a minute. That's one of the names of God. Well, yeah, but Elohim is just that. It's the righteous judge. So we see this over and over in the Torah, and even in the New Testament, where Jesus says, "Where two or more are gathered in my name, I'm there in your midst." Sometimes we forget to read the first couple of verses of that, and it's talking about making judgment over how something is to be done, an interpretation of Scripture. And so
exactly.
even there, Jesus is reminding us of the Torah portion that says, when you go before the judges, you obey them. You don't go left and right. You
Right,
disobey the ruling of a judge. That's the death penalty. what happens if the judge makes the wrong judgment because he's sitting in the place
Right.
of God?
That's what I was. Right. I was just trying to say that just because the koshin is called the breastplate of judgment, that means decision also, as in righteous judgment versus unrighteous judgment. It's not necessarily a punishment because you're just getting judgment. Judgment by the laws, the ordinances, the statutes. That's what you're getting. You're not getting necessarily a punishment. You're coming before the breastplate and before the person who wears the breastplate. Therefore, you're coming before God to be judged or to be what's the contractual term? Not litigated. Well, maybe it is litigated. I don't know, but it's what is the term?
So what would be the price, the penalty for making the wrong judgment if you're sitting in the place of a judge? If you're a bad judge, if you're a crooked judge, Frank pays you off, or you just like Frank better because
Well, after all, I'm more handsome.
yeah, because Frank is better
Yeah.
looking, so you're going to side with Frank. You make a bad judgment, an unlawful judgment, and that's where the midrash is going to on this, is that breastplate bears atonement for bad rulings for all of Israel, because you have a judge in every city, and so it
Yes.
represents all of Israel, all the tribes, a judge for every tribe, and a judge over them. I mean, the court system is broken up, and so that's what they're trying to get to, is this breastplate brings atonement for that, because there's no place for atonement, or it's not really even talked about in Torah, which is kind of an odd thing. Whereas the crown on Aaron's head makes atonement for the holy things and anything going on within the Mishkan. And so we see that articles of clothing bring about atonement, which is a very strange thing, very odd.
Yeah. Well, we've run across other things where we've said, wait a second, this half shekel atones for my soul? Wait a second. This money atones for me? Hold on a second. How does that happen? I thought we had to have a blood sacrifice. I mean, come on. If we're going to be literalist, right?
That's kind of a tough one, because in Hebrews 9:22 it says that there is no remission of sins without blood, and I think sometimes we either take that out of context, or God forbid, whoever wrote it didn't know what they were talking about. So we've got to be careful about some of these things. We when we rush to the back of the book and we don't read the beginning, we don't understand why certain things are in the back of the book. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
I read the ending, so I don't have to know the circumstances and get the character build up.
I read the end of the book. God wins. So what's the big deal? Yeah, okay. And along with this, money paying for an atonement, there's the Jewish understanding that one person can atone for a nation. Isn't that interesting? In all these different atonements, there's also that one.
Yeah, but that's in the context, and just to be careful with it, it's not that one person can die for the nation. That's not what it means. It's
Right.
that one person um, buys time for that generation, and I'm not going to do this any justice whatsoever, but the righteous individual can buy time for the generation to repent and return.
To
That's the
postpone
context.
judgment.
Yeah, you might say that it's postponing of judgment. In a very broad, generic sense, yeah, one person can atone for another, or I mean, for an entire generation, for an entire group of people through their righteous deeds and so forth. But it's in the context of, not that their sins are forgiven. It's in the context that judgment is postponed, or time is allowed for them, a period of time to repent and return.
Or their sins are covered or hidden for a time.
Yeah, it's in that sense that judgment is postponed or delayed.
Right, right. So, with all of this, why is it you and I like to focus on, and we have in the past years, because this is our birth portion again. We focused on the beginning with the bringing of the oil, and we focused at the end of the burning the incense on the altar of incense, because we've gone over all the other stuff in the middle. We've gone over it, and we're still looking at it. We love it. We wish we knew more. We try to understand every year when it comes around. But we went to the beginning and the end. Why does that? What's so important with that thought of ours today?
I don't know. I'll follow that. Go ahead. Tell me.
Okay.
I feel
Well,
like
in
you're
the
setting me
beginning,
up for something, and I did.
no, 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 no. I'm not setting you up. In the beginning, I think this is Frank's opinion, folks. In the beginning, I think that we need the oil. We need to be remembered about the oil, and the oil is special, and that the oil is actually the spirit or souls of the people, because the only way you get that is when the people are crushed. And many, many years, the Jewish people have been crushed and crushed and crushed. But each time, the core never gives up. They just begin to flourish greater and greater. Now, the end is the private act of the inside the tent of meeting, offering up incense, a pleasant, pleasing fragrance to God, which is the prayers of the people. So it still all relates to the people. It's not about any one individual. It's about the nation and what happens to the nation and what the nation does in order to serve God. I think that's why we went there. I'm not sure, but I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I can go with that.
All right. It's and as you pointed out, well, the oil is to keep the menorah lit, and the menorah, when lit at the evening, okay, shines light because it the flowers and the knops and all that, they're all focused toward the center. Now, each of the lamps has a little bit of a reflector so that it you can basically steer the light, kind of like a flashlight, but not exactly. So you can steer the light and focus the light toward the center. Well, it's directly opposite of the table of showbread, is it not? The table of showbread is a representation of the 12 tribes. And the one definition of the showbread is that the pans that are made to make the bread in have a resemblance of the individual tribes. Now, whether it be, the bull for Joseph, or the gazelle for was it Naphtali? Is it? No, it's not Naphtali. It's Asher, isn't it? No. Well, anyway, I'm trying to remember. Anyway, so if they have a particular symbol associated with that tribe, that symbol comes out in the bread, the loaf that is made, and then they're placed on the half pipes opposite. So you have the light on one south side, shining light to the north, which is the showbread, which represents the tribes, and west to is the altar of incense that the high priest offers the prayers, the wishes of the people to God. That's a strange picture, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. So I let's see. I'm trying to recall who it was, but someone had taught a while back. Everybody tries to make the Mishkan or the tabernacle. It's the body or picture of a man, and different things like that. And this came from a different perspective of, now, what does this look like? And don't look at the image as much as the function of things. And that was a strange way of looking at it. Well, okay, you've got the ark, which has the covenant inside of it in the form of 2 tablets, and then you have a menorah of light, and you have showbread, and then you have an altar of incense, and then you have the great altar where everything is burned on. And start thinking on it, and I want to say it was one of my sons says, "Oh, well, it's like a face." I said, "What?" And whoever was teaching us says, "That's it exactly. The ark is our conscious. It's the brain, and so the thought, everything involved in the thought pattern is inside that ark, which is our covenant. It has the commandments on it, and then you have 2 eyes." And I'm thinking, well, how in the world is showbread like 2 eyes? He says, "Aha! I'm glad you asked. You have to have 2 things for sight. You have to have light and an image." I went, "Oh, I think I know where you're going here. That's not too bad." And he talks about the light and the light of the eye and things like this. And then he talks about the showbread. Why is it called showbread? So it can be seen. Duh. So you've got the 2 eyes there, and then the next thing you see is the altar of incense for smell. That's your nose. And then outside you have the grand altar, the big altar, where the sacrifices go on, and that's your mouth, because they're being consumed. I said, okay, but does that really mean anything? He said, after the whole thing gets functioning, what happens? Well, what do you mean? Well, there's this great blessing that happens. Oh, yeah. Yevarechecha Adonai. It says God spoke to Moses, tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you're to bless the people. And Aaron starts off, God bless you and keep you. God smile on you. May see, I'm forgetting it, Frank.
May his face shine upon you.
Yeah, may his face shine upon you. And his face. He's saying, now, don't look at the tabernacle so much as a face, but isn't it surprising that once everything is working, after the 7-day inauguration period, we see that the whole purpose of this and the whole purpose of the blessing is so that God's face will shine upon you. And what was it that Moses asked for when he was up on the mountain? Show me your glory, show me your face. Wow.
Yeah.
God said, you can't see my face and live. And besides that, you wouldn't know it. You couldn't recognize it. I'm not a physical form. I'm not a human. I'm not a man.
Right.
But let me give you something that you can work with. And I thought, oh, that's fascinating. I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. And that's why the altar of incense is part of the brain, as far as the tablets being there and what we're supposed to think and what we're supposed to remember and what we're supposed to do. It's, God, please allow me to do this thing correctly, and the prayer goes up. And God, please allow me to do this, and the prayer goes up. And God, please forgive me for this, and the prayer goes up. And so it's integral to the and everything else outside of it. So at least that's what I think, anyway.
Yeah,
What
I'm
do I
sorry.
know, right?
I had to look up. I had to pull it up out of a file I have here. Yeah, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face shine upon you. May He be gracious to you. The Lord lift up His countenance, which again, it's not so much countenance because the Hebrew is panim. So it's lift up His face upon you and give you peace. And when Aaron does this, he invokes my name on the people, and I will bless them. Yeah,
Right.
I just hadn't thought of that until you were talking about it, and that was pretty cool.
And there's the thing that prayer is a prayer. Now, yes, it was said in Fiddler on the Roof, but it is a prayer in most families to their children, a blessing, right?
The Aaronic blessing, the priestly blessing.
Well, part of it, it's, may you be like Ephraim and Manasseh, may you be like
Oh yeah, the blessing for the sons.
Leah and
That's a little bit different. Yeah, but
right. But
this is being tied
it's tied
directly
in with
with.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, this is tied directly with the tabernacle, and because it was the blessing, how Aaron blessed the people after the inauguration and after God showed up and consumed the offerings. That's how Aaron blessed the people, and it was tied into directly with the tabernacle in a face, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing that. I was just saying that Jews is a portion of that for the weekly Shabbat blessing on their children. Or at least that's what it seems like to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then
So
you wanted to go to the altar of incense. What's going on with the altar of incense? What do you see there?
why it's one of the smallest things in all of the Mishkan, all of the Beis HaMikdash. But yet it's one of the most important or potent things. Without the altar of incense, it appears that God doesn't hear your prayers, at least at this time. Okay, and I'm not saying that he doesn't hear you. He obviously hears you, but without offering the incense, without offering the pleasing aroma, which is nothing more than obedience. That's the most pleasing aroma to God, is our obedience to him. So without symbolically offering up the incense, that obedience is left out. I mean, it seems like it.
Yeah, what I hear a lot is the incense are our prayers, and so it's analogous to praying, and so the incense are offered up twice a day, and then you cannot go into the most holy place without a cloud of incense about you. Um, I see both there, and I have no problems or qualms with either. The one thing that I thought is odd is how come the altar of incense wasn't mentioned last week with the rest of the furniture?
Hmm.
I mean, we're going
You
about
think it was an
Leviticus.
afterthought?
We're yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, and while you're doing all that, I need another thing over here. I need a nice end table over here because it just
Yeah,
finishes off the room.
yeah, really.
That
Yeah, the
rug.
feng shui in here is off unless you put that there.
Yeah, the rug really tied the room together. So make sure
Yeah.
you add that. Yeah. um, somebody out there might know what that movie reference is, but we start off with this. I'm gonna have this is God telling Moses, "You're gonna build this place so that I can dwell with you," and he
Right,
starts off with the ark. Nobody starts off with the furniture when they're building a house.
right,
You don't go house shopping and think, you know what, I need a good cabinet first. That's just odd. And so obviously the Ark of the Covenant is the centerpiece, the most important piece. Everything else is designed around this.
right,
And then we go into the tent, and then we start filling it with all the furniture. And before we get to that last bit of furniture, almost as if the altar of incense is as important as the Ark of the Covenant.
right.
So we have bookends. Start off with the Ark of the Covenant, and we end with the altar of incense, and everything else is in between.
Yep.
So you have to start out with this altar of incense somehow in entering it, and the whole goal is to get to the Ark of the Covenant. So I guess it's just odd that it seems out of place. It comes last, and why is it last? And we go into the same type of description as all the rest of the furniture. I mean, pretty specific on here, but in verse 6, and this is chapter 30, verse 6, it says, "And you shall place it in front of the dividing curtain, which is upon the ark of testimony, in front of the ark cover, which is upon the testimony, where I arrange to meet with you." That's an odd way of saying, put that over here.
Who knew God was an interior decorator?
But it's an odd way of saying it. I mean, how could I translate it in today's English? Hey, the kitchen table, I want you to put it by the front door, which is next to the big window, which is over opposite the stove, which is behind the refrigerator. I mean, what? How? And so for years, because even when you describe when the furnishings are described in other places, nobody knows where this altar of incense goes.
Right.
Does it? If I'm walking into the holy place, I see the menorah here, I see the showbread here. Do I see the altar of incense right next to the curtain in front, or is the altar of incense right here as I enter in? Because it seems like it's in both places. And then in one other place, it's almost as if the altar of incense is in the Holy of Holies. This thing it seems to move about. What is really going on? What is God really trying to tell us here in verse 6? And you shall place it in front of the dividing curtain, which is upon the ark of the testimony. Well, what does the ark of the testimony have to do with where I'm placing the altar of incense? In front of the ark cover, the kaparot. What's important about that? That's where the angels are. So I'm putting it in front of that. Well, yeah, it's going to be in front of it, but where do you want me to put this thing? Which is upon the testimony. Yes, the testimony of the covenant. I get it. I know where the covenant is. It's inside the ark, and you got the kaparot on top of it, and then there's a dividing curtain. So placing it in front of the dividing curtain doesn't mean against it. It doesn't tell me to the left, to the right, in the middle. You're still not telling me where this goes. Aha, says God. I'm not giving you an exact location. I'm giving you a reference for the importance of this piece of furniture. I'm not telling you exactly where to put it. I'm telling you its importance and relevance to the ark. Oh, that's why we don't know exactly where it goes, because I don't have the rest of the furniture in reference either. I only have one point of reference. You cannot travel if you only have one point, or you cannot help me out, Frank. You can't find a location with only one reference point.
Right. You can't navigate. You must be able to triangulate.
Right. So it's not about the location in the tent. It's about its reference to the ark. And what's the important thing about the ark? The testimony or the covenant inside of it.
Right.
So this altar of incense is extremely important. It's in direct reference with the covenant. Oh, maybe that's why Aaron's two sons died. Maybe that's why the test of the nation of who's going to be the high priest is going to be Aaron or anybody else. You're going to substitute somebody for the high priest here. Let's have a test. Bring your incense.
Incense pan. Yeah. Well, you're bring your fire pan and let's put incense on it.
Yeah. And why is that a test? Because the altar of incense is in direct correlation with the covenant itself. Yes. You don't twist, you don't amend, you don't do away with my covenant. You don't change my covenant, and you don't interpret it your way and apply it the way you want to.
And you don't omit anything.
Or you die.
Yep.
That's wow. Kind of brings a different perspective on Aaron's two sons and strange fire. We always want to figure out what the strange fire is, what it was, what it could be, anything else. And the point is, this is why I think, my opinion, why certain things are omitted from Torah, such as what was Adam and Eve's real sin? What was Cain's real punishment? I mean, so many different things seem to be omitted because you're missing the point.
Right.
It's right here in verse 6. The altar of incense is directly related to and correlated with the covenant.
Yes. Yes.
Ouch.
And isn't it odd? And I wouldn't have known this unless, you study and you look at it and you find out about it. But this is the only portion that in Torah of the 4 books that Moses is in where he's not mentioned. You hear me?
Yeah. Now you're saying he's not mentioned here in this aliyah, or what are you talking about?
Moses' name is not mentioned in this portion.
Oh.
Okay, in this portion. This portion is typically read around Purim. It's typically read around the 7th of Adar, which is his birth and death day. And so it's read, and it doesn't say Moses. It says specifically in the beginning of this, it says, you. It's referring to Moses, but Moses' name is not mentioned.
Yeah, I missed that when you introduced it. So yeah, this is the one Torah portion where Moses' name is not mentioned at all. And so why is that?
Well, they say the fact that when God said, you can take them along, but I'm not going with you. And Moses blatantly stands up and says, look, if you're not going to come with us, blot me out of your book. I'm not going. Just blot me out of your book. If you won't forgive them, blot me out. Well, it says, or it is said, that God always hears the words of the true Tzaddik and fulfills them. So this is the one portion where Moses' name is not mentioned. And it happens to be the coincidence of his birthday and of the day he died. So why this portion is special, because you're not, even though it's implied, it's not, his name is not there.
I know that's what the sages teach, and it sounds great. Have no qualms or issues with it. I think there might be one other thing to it, and this is just me on this one, and that is the focus is not on Moshe with this. In other words, Moshe was our teacher. Moshe was a prophet, and the focus here, it's almost as if, as great as Moshe is, I want you to listen to me carefully. This is even more important than Moshe.
Yep.
And we're talking about the Mishkan and the high priest and the menorah and the altar of incense. We're talking about the Tamid offering. We're talking about some real important stuff here. That you want to come and spend time with me. You want to not escape the world, but and I mentioned this earlier. We have in the creation series, we have a couple things going on here, and I'm going to have to sign off here quickly. But we have 3 separations: separation between light and dark. But there's no moon and no sun at that point in time. So what is this light and dark that's being separated? And it wasn't until just in the past 10 years where scientists have figured out and discovered, they still don't understand, but discovered there is a thing of black energy. And this black energy, or this dark energy, there's actually more of it than light energy. And they can see it, and they can understand a lot of things about it, but they don't fully understand its purpose. There was that separation. Then there's a separation of the waters. And the separation of the waters allows for a place to begin the creation. And then there's a separation of night and day. It's not light and dark, it's night and day now. And the purpose of that is the sun will tell you the seasons and, day, night, days of the week, weeks of the year, or months of the year, and years. And so this is regulating time. So we have time, space, and then something else really weird over here. The Mount Sinai was divided up the same way. All the people can be here, but put a fence around it so they can't even touch the mountain, except for the priests. Well, we didn't even have Cohen then. So who are these priests? But anyways, but the priests can come up and they can touch it. They can only come up so far. But nobody can go up into the cloud itself. Moshe, you and Aaron can come up here, but nobody else can come up here. So we see that 3 levels of separation there. Mishkan, we've got the same 3 levels of separation. What's really striking about it is we've got 3 sets of cherubim in this temple, or in this Mishkan. We have the outer covering that have angels embroidered in it. And then once we go inside, we have a dividing curtain that has angels across it. And then once you can go past that dividing curtain, you see the ark, and it has 2 angels on it. Where else had we seen angels before this time? The Garden of Eden. After the sin, after the fall, we're kicked out. There's 2 angels that stand there, but they've got flaming swords. There's no flaming swords on these angels. It's almost as if God is presenting us an opportunity for another Garden of Eden. It is, God creates the world. He creates time and place. And he puts man in here. But then he creates this Garden of Eden. And we've got some weird descriptions. And those descriptions of this Garden of Eden with the rivers and what comes from them, it's all right here when we're discussing the jewels and the clothing of this high priest and how he's decked out. But we've got the Garden of Eden, and it's almost as if it doesn't exist in a time and a place. We've got some description of things that nobody's ever been able to find or identify. Jews don't even look for it because they realize the Garden of Eden is not a temporal thing. It's a combination of spiritual and physical combined. This is God's garden. This isn't Earth's garden or man's garden. It's God's garden, and God placed man there. And as any master of his house would do, I make a garden. For what? So I can go and relax and enjoy. And in the evening, the cool of the day, I'm walking through here looking for my favorite friend. And my friend is hiding from me. Why is he hiding from me? Because he doesn't have his clothes on. He's uncovered. His sin has uncovered him. God said, Adam, you're living in my garden. Here, at the redemption of Israel, God says, I want to dwell with you again. Again. But this time, I've ceased from my creation. This time, you're going to create the garden. Here's what the garden looks like. Make the garden like this. You make the garden, you will meet with me there. So this time, the angels don't have flaming swords. But we have to be very, very careful in how we approach and when we approach. I've got to take off a little bit early tonight. So how do we wrap this up, Frank?
Well, the instructions, and yes, I know it's blasé to say the instructions are the instructions, but that's what's important about it. The instructions are the instructions. That's the key. So do this, don't do that. Can't you read the sign? Sorry, I couldn't resist. But that's what it is. It is all about God giving us with him. And because of his nature, Even Moses, he was hidden in the cleft of the rock. He couldn't see the front part of God. He could only see the hinder parts of God. Because of that nature, a certain way to come to God. That doesn't mean we can only pray at the temple. It doesn't mean that. Our prayers go up to God because of our heart, because of our longing to be with him. They're always there. But as far as meeting with him, things are a little bit restricted. And there's a reason for that. So,
Yeah, even First Kings,
that's
even in First Kings, when after Solomon had built the temple and he's dedicating it, and he's talking about the different levels of digression that Israel will go through, and after each one he still says, and even after they've been taken captive by their enemy because of their sins, and you're punishing them, even then when they're in a faraway land, if they turn to this place and they speak your name and they pray towards this place, forgive them of their sins and return them to the land. So we've got face, once again, turning, prayers, and then a return. Odd, there's nothing about sacrifice in any of that.
Nope.
There's forgiveness.
Yes.
There's sin. There's kicking out. There's judgment. There's repentance, forgiveness, and return. Anyways, food for thought. All right. I've got to take off, Frank.
Discuss amongst yourselves. Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I think that's right. I think that's correct. There's no one way to look at Torah, but there's usually a better way or a more better way to understand it. So I just look forward to the day that our brother Judah says, yeah, come on in. But
Yep.
Hey, this is 2.5 Opinions. I am Frank.
I'm not the Rebbe.
Yes, he is. Yes,
Shalom.
he is. Shalom. And we'll see you next week, God willing, and the creek don't rise. So, thank you very much. Take care.